It's my feel-good breakfast show.
It is your feel-good breakfast show, and let us talk about the kids for a second. When it comes to kids, not all children master nighttime dryness at the same age. It's just the same as learning any new skill like walking or talking, for instance. Well, today marks World Bedwetting Day, and it is so important to remember that bedwetting is a common medical condition that can be treated.
So this whole conversation is actually just to tell you that you're not alone. And we're going to go through the ins and outs with you. We're going to hold your hand throughout the entire process. So this particular thing, it can have a serious impact on a child's happiness, which makes it important for parents to be equipped with the right information to assist their child using practical techniques, management tools, and constant reassurance, which is vitally important in order to build their child's self-confidence. Now, joining us today with his first-hand experience is medical doctor and television executive producer and presenter, Dr. Michael Mall, to take us through this area that should not be of concern. Because the thing is, if you're concerned about something, all you need is the right information. Don't follow the auntie on Facebook. Follow Dr. Michael Mall. That's the most important thing. It is so great to have you.
Likewise, Carl. Jamie, good to be with you guys in the studio. And you're right, first-hand experience. I was a bedwetter, so I speak from that experience.
Yes.
But Jamie, you did say something about it's like walking and talking and mastering bedwetting. No, bedwetting is never a child's fault. It's not something they have control over. It's not because they want to wet their bed or they're being badly behaved. They have no control, and therefore should never be punished for wetting the bed. Just want to put it out there. That's probably the most important point, Carl. You never punish a child for wetting the bed. And if you do, parents, I mean, 50% of parents are punishing their kids. You prolong the season of bedwetting. You make the effects of bedwetting, psychological effects, even worse. So please never, ever punish your kids for bedwetting.
And I love what you said, you know, you are not alone, because 16% of South African children is diagnosed with this bedwetting. Let's look at the long-term effects of this. How does this affect a child's self-esteem and overall, you know, emotional and mental well-being?
Yeah, Jamie, you touched on the issue. Physically, it's a season that passes. Psychologically, 1 in 6 kids, I mean, 5 kids in every school class is wetting their bed, so you're not alone, as you said, Carl.
Yeah.
Kids who wet their bed see themselves as of less value than their peers. All right, so my self-esteem is really knocked by the fact that I wet my bed for no good reason, because it's not your fault, kids. And secondly, kids that wet their beds are prone to a higher risk of depression later on in life. So the mental effect of bedwetting is significant, and parents can really have a role to play in minimizing those effects.
And I find that shame is such a big deterrent to kids having a fluid relationship with their parents, because you're trying to hide this thing that I feel is wrong. But if you as a parent go to the child and actually explain what had happened and actually go confront it, I feel like the shame factor, it gets removed. Suddenly, it's a safe place.
Well, actually, Carl, shame is more parents' problem than a child's problem. Because the kid knows, I didn't do this on purpose. I mean, I wake up, my bed's wet. You know, I didn't want to do that. It's parents that my child's a bedwetter. You know, I can't tell the other parents. You know, little do they know, 5 or 6 other parents in your class are battling with the same thing. So it's parental shame that's the bigger issue rather than child shame. And if parents could get around that and just realize it's a normal, natural part of growing up, there's nothing wrong with your child, bedwetting doesn't need to be cured, or it's just a season you support your child through and you minimize the psychological effects, you'll sail through it.
I feel like we should stay with the parents for a second and actually advise, with regard to the incident, when it happens, when this thing is happening quite often, are there any sort of management tools that you could give parents so that they can actually confront this in the best way possible and not have that whole, my child's a bedwetter type of response, which is obviously very negative and is not going to help your child at all?
Well, absolutely. Well, firstly, bedwetting is genetic, so hey, mom and dad, you're to blame, not your child. Just putting it out there.
There we go.
But there are 2 approaches. There's a conservative approach, which is limiting fluids before bedtime and voiding just before bed, you know, minimize salt and protein at dinner, that kind of stuff. The stuff that parents know.
Yeah.
And if your child is fine with that, great. But if you can see it's really affecting your child, then I would be more proactive. There's bedwetting alarms, expensive, take about 3 months to really work, effective in 2/3 of kids. But worth doing. Or there's actually medication. Go to your GP, get a medication, which is a hormone that tells your kidneys to stop producing that much urine at night, which really assists your kid through the season. As soon as you stop taking medication, you go back to wetting your bed. So it's not a cure, it's support through the season. A bit like these pull-ups. I mean, these pull-ups are great because they're discreet, they're super absorbent, they're not nappies, they're just pull-ups. Your children can go on sleep outs, they can have friends over because they know that whatever happens tomorrow morning, I'm not going to wake up in a wet bed because I have pull-ups on me. So again, just another way to support your child through the season of bedwetting as they grow out of it. And most do.
Something I wanted to ask you is, when do we go the medical route? When do we actually go and seek professional help? As parents, when do you feel like it's the right time to say, you know what, my child does have this condition, it's time now to go and seek professional help?
Yeah, so Jamie, great question. If your conservative approach hasn't worked, your child is still bothered by that, and you need that medication, you've got to go see a GP. Over and above that, I would say that if your child was dry before for at least 6 months and starts wetting their bed again at night, you need to go see a doctor. There's a psychological element there. It could be parental divorce, it could be a new sibling, it could be diabetes, a whole bunch of other things. And the third thing is if your child is having daytime accidents. So potty training and bedwetting, two very separate things, but if they start combining daytime issues, and there's bedwetting, then go and see a doctor.
Wow. I feel like we've been filled with information that is just vitally important. We know what the options are now with regard to the way we respond, which is so beautiful. And I think what we've provided here today is a lot of comfort, a lot of support, and a lot of key indicators when our response to what is a very natural thing can become a negative response for our kids. So, Dr. Michael Mol, as always, you're a wealth of knowledge. We obviously, we go to you for everything. Bedwetting, headaches, intermittent fasting. You are the authority. So thank you once again for sharing.
Thanks for having me in studio, Carl. Jamie, great chatting. And parents, remember, never punish your kid for wetting their bed.
Again, we are reiterating, it is so important to remember that bedwetting is a common condition in children and can even be experienced by teens and adults. Now listen up, one lucky viewer could win themselves a DRYNITES hamper to the value of 3,000 Rand.
And it's going to be so cool. I want you to enter this, okay? So to enter, just reply to the competition post on the Expresso Facebook or Twitter page and tell us why you would love to win this hamper. Don't forget to include #DRYNITES in your answer. T's and C's apply and can be found on expressoshow.com.